Hey, this is Todd. Yesterday, I streamed a look at the Level 1 adventure from Total Party Kill Games, written by Neal, Litherland, and Berg, called Critical Hits: The Curse of Sapphire Lake. I encourage you to check out the full stream if you'd like a page-by-page, blow-by-blow look at the adventure. But if you just like the TLDR version, don't have an hour and a half to spend watching and listening to me fumble through it, then this is for you. What I liked, start with that. I like the theme a lot. I think I mentioned this on the stream, but it has a real Beowulf, Grendel, 13th Warrior vibe to it. If that's something that appeals to you, you will enjoy this. I like the idea of the adventurers showing up to they don't call it a Viking-style village, but it definitely, again, has that feel to it. If you've watched the 13th Warrior, it has a similar theme of a village that is under the grip of fear. There's some mysterious creature or creatures that are menacing this place, and the adventurers, the party, has to deal with it, or they can, right? That's the hook for the adventure. I like that a lot. It covers most of the pillars pretty well, I thought. You've got social interactions and some social decision-making that's important. You've got combat, of course. You have some investigation. You have a little bit of exploration. If I was going to nitpick, I would say that maybe exploration of the pillars is the one that's covered the weakest, but there is a little bit of exploration there. It's laid out well. It has nice art. I think it has enough content to fill a single session, which is the point. I think this is part of a series called Critical Hits, which is all about one-shot, single-session adventures. I think this fits right in. I haven't read any other ones at this point. Maybe Neal will send me some more I can take a look at to see what the vibe of those are. But as far as just being a standalone piece, I think it works well. What maybe doesn't work quite so well is the bare-bones nature of it. So you're going to open up this PDF. I don't know if you can buy a print version. I have the links to where you can find it on drive-thru. It's a bit bare-bones. It's not that there's anything particularly wrong with that in and of itself, but I felt like it crossed over that point of being like, okay, it's bare bones to it's missing a few things. And I'll get into that in a second. So you're going to open it up, and it's going to give you the adventure. It doesn't give you any, which I always like, the kind of notes for the GM that you might get at the beginning. Maybe some bits about, hey, this is how we laid things out. This is how we envision you using this material. Those are nice to have. Not that this module, this adventure, is doing anything wild and crazy or weird or different than other things, but it's any kind of notes you can give to a GM to help them run something, always welcome. And in the case of this one, I think about it as far as this is a one-shot. This is a thing that I might just pick up and run. Maybe I've got some friends and suddenly they want to play D&D, and I just run on the drive-thru and I buy this, I print it out, and I just want to take it and go. How usable is that in that instance? I would say you can do it. I could have run through that, but I would have fumbled around a bit more. This one does require some prep, and I think part of that prep is because it is somewhat bare bones. Where I think that it crosses over from, okay, these are nice to haves, to maybe I really think it needs this, is it's missing some maps. It has a region map, which is fine. It helps you place it in the context of a greater geography. If you're running this and you have a campaign world already and you're thinking about where can I stick this Sapphire Lake and this town, great, you can see that. But when you're actually playing it, that's probably the least useful map because the adventure starts. It's a one-shot, so it's going to be pretty linear. You're not concerned about how the party gets to this town of Kingsbridge or how they know about it. You're really just putting them there right in the town, in the mix, from jump, and that's good. It's a one-shot. You don't really want to waste time on stuff like that unless that's the whole point of the game. So that's not a problem. But there's basically two main combat encounters. There's one at the beginning and there's one at the end, and both of those could have been helped by a map. There's a little dungeon. There's no map for the dungeon. There's no map for the town. The first combat encounter has an element that they reference it in the write-up as visually as far as squares and what's happening with these squares. It has to do with a roof. People are trying to set it on fire. The antagonist is trying to talking about squares, and squares are lighting up and this or that. And when you start getting into that kind of detail, even if I'm going to run it theater of the mind, and I often run things theater of the mind, it's really helpful. I would say necessary to see that and lay it out. So if the players ask me, well, how big is this roof? How many squares are there? Where are the squares next to each other? The squares, once one square is on fire, it's going to go from square to square. I have no visual reference. if I'm prepping this, I can make that visual reference myself. But it's something that we would expect of any other material. I think if I was buying a Wizards of the Coast adventure, maybe Adventures League, I would expect a map there. Here's the roof of this house, or here's the house, and here are the squares. And this is how it works. Okay, it's missing. Can I make it myself? Sure. But then the usability just as an off-the-cuff adventure just goes down a little bit. And it's one of those things that I think it's not a nice to have. I think that's really a part of it. Same thing with a dungeon. Maybe it's just the way that we've come to accept adventures and think about them, but having maps for your dungeons, it should go without saying, right? You have a dungeon, even if it's not big. This one's not, it's small. It's just a few rooms. It's linear. Still, just give me a map. Give me a visual representation. That way I can look at it. And sometimes there is a case where, look, pictures are worth 1,000 words. This is one where I could look at the map. I can maybe see the squares. And it helps me just riff on things because I don't have to read through the paragraph and analyze it. I can look and say, okay, I get how big this room is. Maybe I can ad-lib my own details about it. Give me the picture. It's easy to look at. There's another element in which it's part of the little exploration that there is in the adventure. And this one was one which it's not really a map that I needed. It was some kind of representation. It had to do with the layout of this lake and this kind of spire rock formation. And then there's a tunnel in there. And it just was hard for me to put together the way it was written, how this all worked together. You could watch through the stream and you'll see where I'm struggling to put like, well, is it here? And how are they seeing it? How does this work? Oh, okay, is this over here? It's just hard to tell. Whereas if you had some little map, again, it could be a map, could be a drawing, something to say, here's how it relates. I would have had it straight away, right? I would have been like, okay, I get exactly what they mean. In some cases, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's one of them. So it's missing that. Another thing that's not, I wouldn't say is a real mark against it, but it's one of those nice to haves is, okay, this is a one shot. We're at first level. Think of the use cases for this kind of venture. Maybe I'm bringing it to some people who don't have characters. Maybe they're just some people who heard that I play D&D and they think, oh, one night, hey, let's play D&D. I think, great, I've got Curse of Sapphire Lake. I will bring that over. Come to my house. I've got it. Pre-gens. Pre-gens would be a nice thing to have. Just as far as making it easy, taking away a little bit of a barrier. If this is going to be something that you run and you don't have characters, give me some pre-gens. They don't have to be. I know that this is not a Wizards product, so you are locked a little bit into the OGL, whatnot, but you can pull pre-gens from just the basic rules. I wouldn't say, oh, I wouldn't never run this because it doesn't have pre-gens, but it's just one of those things that, hey, a little bit of an extra step. If I was going to boil down these things that I'm talking about as negatives, and I don't want to make it seem like the negatives outweigh the positives because I don't think they do, but I think this is something that, and I'm sure I'll run into more of this as I cover more small publisher, indie, whether it's through drives-through or whether it's through DM's Guild material, is that it's missing maybe an extra level of polish. One of the other things I talk about in the stream is everything is nicely written out. I didn't see a lot of big errors or typos or anything like that, but the layout's just kind of plain. Most of the things are just in prose paragraphs, and then there's the block text that you're supposed to read, and then they have a couple of kind of DM important stuff that they block out. This is where I would think, go the extra mile as far as formatting and make it easy to call out the stuff that's important. Even if it's just something like, hey, bold the text that says there are two toads here. Just bold that up. Because if you miss it, suddenly you're scrambling around. And I know that when I was reading it and I'm doing a little bit, I'm not trying to read the entire thing word for word. So I'm trying to skim, find the important stuff. I'm struggling to find it. Or then I pass it. Oh, wait a minute. This was there. Oh, let me back up. Oh, no, it's really this over here. Stuff's easy to miss. Add some extra formatting, break stuff out, use some different ways of presenting the content to really make things that you want to make sure that the GM sees, make sure that pops out. So between that and the maps, I think, okay, it's a little bit bare bones. Could use that extra polish. I'm sure this is a very small team. Maybe it's just a couple of guys. I don't know Total Party Kill. I don't know if it's just these two gentlemen who do it and that's just their publishing arm or whether there's more to it. But just one of those things that it's kind of going to come with the territory as a small creator. And I know this is something that I'm working on my own stuff that somebody deal with, as I'm not a great cartographer, but something's just got to bite the bullet and do it. Either do it yourself and just make it work or, obviously hire somebody to do it. Figure out, Dyson Logos and other people I think put out free maps. Some of those I think are even that you could use them commercially. So see if one of those fits or even tweak which to use a map that fits. Take a look at what other layouts are doing. Look at an adventure whose layout you really like and copy it, steal it. And not in the not in the literal sense, but look at what they do and say, "Ooh, they do this, do that." look, it's indie stuff, and it is totally usable as is. Like I say, you just need to prep it. I would say as far as the actual content of the adventure, I think it's all really good. It's very straightforward. I think for new players, it gives them some room to maneuver. If you're a new GM and you're running it, I think same thing. It's fairly linear, which I think in this case is a good thing. But it has enough stuff that you can kind of get into it, I think, and play around with what's happening. I thought there was a case at the beginning where they put one of the main antagonists at risk early on, and they count on them getting away. I think that's always a risky idea. And I would have liked if they'd given either an option, what if they don't get away, which I think could happen. Again, I haven't play tested, I've only read it, so maybe they did a lot of play testing and nobody was able to do that. But it only takes is one or two missed rolls, like a grapple check, and somebody succeeds or does whatever, and then suddenly the unthinkable has happened and your antagonist is captured or dead. So what do you do at that point? The way the adventure's laid out, they have an option there, which I won't spoil. You can go through the stream and come to your own conclusions about that. But they have an option there, so I would have presented it. And then the other thing is just from and this is just more my opinion, just how I like things, is there's a lot of things where you're rolling for. You can run it as a skill challenge style, but I thought that some of the stuff that you're rolling for is important, so I wouldn't want to gate that behind rolls. I felt like some bad luck, maybe depending on how the party is, and you could miss out on some information that, I don't know if it could bring everything to a halt, but it could just make it more of a maybe frustrating experience. Whereas what I would do is give you some information just regardless, and then when you make a roll, then it gives you some extra information. So kind of give you tiers of info to make sure that everything's moving. You're always going to get that piece that's going to lead you to the next spot, but then, hey, you want some more that might give you some insight or some advantage going forward. Here's that next spot. But this is all stuff that can be fixed with prep, right? So you do your prep, and I think it'll run great. Just be aware that I think maybe out of the box, this might be a harder thing to run, or at least a little bit more frustrating thing to run. I don't know if the critical hits, that series, if it's meant to be just out of the box, play it. So I think most adventures, I would never suggest running it out of the box, but some of these I feel like, if you're setting it up kind of as a one shot, it'd be nice to have. But I think it's got a really good structure and bones and skeleton. It's got that great theme. If you like the 13th Warrior, I think you can really get into that. And I think they did a really nice job, and I'm hoping if they get to do a second digital print run of this, that some of the stuff is very easy to fix. It's just a little tweaking here or there. Again, it's just one of those things that you could really just take it up that one more level by just going through and giving it one more polish run on the layout, and then just add in the maps and add in a couple extras, and then it would take it for 4 to 5 stars basically. But still, it's really solid. Let me know if you've played it. Let me know, or run it. Let me know what you thought about it. If you pick it up, let me know what you think. But thanks for watching, and please be sure to check out the full stream if you want the complete blow by blow. And hey, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you like this kind of thing. Hit the bell so you can get notified if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this, subscribe there and give me a rating if you feel like it. Really, that stuff really does help me a lot. It helps me able to just go to people and try to get content to cover. The more that I can show that, hey, people actually do watch these or listen to these, then I'm more likely to be able to get review copies of stuff. And of course, the more I can grow the channel, the greater opportunities I have to put more time and effort and keep things going. So it really helps me out a lot. But thanks for watching or listening, and I will talk to you later.